and also the Ateneo de Manila University. I will be your moderator for this EFL session until Dr. Peña Reyes comes into the Zoom room. So thank you for joining us today. In this afternoon, our session will delve into addressing the social insurance needs of the population. And this session is part of our celebration of the Economic and Financial Literacy Week 2020-2022. To this session, one of the key issues that the conference actually has tried to look into is to tackle the issue of the vulnerability of households to various variations in expenses. And given the precarious nature of work and the means to obtain regular incomes, families necessarily turn to social insurance programs that can address wide variations in expenditures, especially those coming from natural and health shocks. The session, therefore, this afternoon will tackle some of the public and private institutions and programs that allow households to cope with these threats. Before we begin, let me just run through a few reminders and house rules. We will be having an open forum towards the end of this webinar. You may send your questions to the question and answer box. Please avoid sending unnecessary messages in the chat box to avoid disturbing the speakers and your fellow participants. The session is being recorded and the recording will be made available in the PS YouTube channel and Facebook after the conference. Towards the end of the session, the link to the session evaluation form will be open. We encourage all participants to accomplish the form to help us improve our future activities. Let me just take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank our sponsors, the National Economic and Development Authority, the Friedrich Naumann Foundation, the Philippine Competition Commission, the United Nations Development Program, the De La Salle University, and the Southeast Asia Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture. The Bank of Philippine Islands, the Ateneo de Manila University Department of Economics, and the Ateneo Center for Economic Research and Development, First Metro Securities, Aboitiz Power Corporation, Bangko Sentral de Pilipinas, the DOST Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic Natural Resources Research and Development, stat-based ADR Institute, the Union Bank of the Philippines, the Isaias Yusuf Isaac Institute, and the Philippine Social Science Council. Without further ado, let us proceed to the panel discussion. In this session, we invited 4 economists from the government and also from the private sector. Let me introduce them one by one. Dr. Israel Francis A. Pargas is currently the Senior Vice President for Health, Finance, and Policy of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation. As a Chief Health Finance Executive, he oversees functional units, which include benefits development and research and quality assurance, which is comprised of accreditation and standards monitoring. He also oversees a program management team for claims that looks into operational issues and concerns in aid of improving corporate performance in the area of benefits delivery. Our second speaker is Mr. Sem Cordial, currently the Manager of Planning and Management Information Office of the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation. He has a long-time development management worker in the government, having spent long years contributing to and managing participatory processes in government, first in the National Agriculture and Fishery Council of the Department of Agriculture, and then at the National Anti-Poverty Commission, or NAPC. He's a writer and editor in the English language and lectures and conducts training in business and technical writing, and he was also a business newspaper reporter. Mr. Junjay Perez, our third speaker, is currently the Executive Director of the Microinsurance MBA Association of the Philippines, known as RIMANSI, a resource center and an association of mutual microinsurers that promotes risk protection and financial inclusion through the mutuality model across the Asia-Pacific region. Prior to RIMANSI, he used to head the microfinance unit also of the National Anti-Poverty Commission that implemented microfinance development programs such as financial literacy, consumer performance, and consumer protection and performance standards. And our last and not least speaker for this afternoon is Congresswoman Stella Luz A. Kimbo, who is the duly elected representative of the 2nd District of Marikina City and the Senior Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations of the House of Reps of the 19th Congress. She's an academician who served as professor and department chair of the University of the Philippines School of Economics. In 2016, she was appointed commissioner of the Philippine Competition Commission, where she served for 3 years. From 2011 to 2013, she was a Prins Claus Professorial Chair holder at the Erasmus University of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Dr. Kimbo has an extensive research portfolio in health economics, industrial organization, microeconomics, education, poverty, and public policy and regulation. She also was the 2015 outstanding. She got recognition in 2015 for the outstanding scientific paper at the National Academy of Science and Technology. And later, the NAS also conferred on her the Outstanding Young Scientist Award. So for this afternoon, I would like to ask each of our speakers, Dr. Pargas, Mr. Perez, Mr. Cordial, and Congresswoman Kimbo to give their 5-minute opening speeches. Dr. Pargas? Sir, okay. Sir, you're muted.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone, and of course to the participants of this Philippine Economy Society Annual Convention Conference. And of course, good afternoon po to my co-panelists, Honorable Representative Stella Luz Kimbo, Mr. Sam Cordial, Mr. June J. Perez, and of course our moderator. Good afternoon. For this session, in addressing the social insurance needs of the population, it is our honor and privilege to represent the health sector. Although, of course, we know that PhilHealth has not the sole responsibility in having the social health protection for our people. It is everyone's responsibility as we promote a whole of system, whole of government, whole of society approach, and this is aligned with our universal health care. Allow me to share the current state of PhilHealth as we gear towards the attainment of this universal health care. PhilHealth's mandate is to ensure that every Filipino are actually financially protected in terms of health needs. And this is by ensuring every Filipino has an access to quality and affordable health care. And this is actually evaluated in our programs relative to the three dimensions of the universal health care, namely the population coverage, which actually speaks of who is actually referred by the program, essentially who are actually eligible to our benefits. The service coverage referring to which services are covered, the full breadth of packages being paid for by PhilHealth. And lastly is the financial coverage, which actually refers to how much is covered or how deep is our coverage. As for the population coverage right now, because of the enactment of the UHC, and there is already a provision that every Filipino is automatically covered by the National Health Insurance Program, we can already say that we have a 100% coverage. However, our concern right now is really how to make every Filipino registered in our database. We also have issued several policies right now which would support this membership in order for our members to be able to get the benefits. And these are some of the policies like on the immediate eligibility, such that every Filipino now can have that immediate eligibility in times of health needs. So far again, 98 million Filipinos are registered, or that's about 88% in our database. And of course, our target is to register everyone. Currently, of course, as stated also in the law is the premiums. And right now for 2022, our premium is concluded at 4% of the basic salary. And by next year, it is at 4.5%. And we are happy to report that in the last 5 years, of course, our collection efforts has resulted to an increasing collection for the past 5 years. This is also attributed to the premium adjustments over the years, and of course, with the consistent and the good efforts of our dedicated operational people. We would also like to recognize the support provided by our Congress, our legislators. Of course, Honorable Stella Kimbo is here in approving the allotments for the premium subsidies, especially for our indirect contributors, particularly for our indigent and senior citizens. Another dimension of the UHC is the service coverage, and this is again speaks of what the services are covered. Currently, we have our inpatient benefits. These are those diseases which need confinements. We also have our outpatient benefits, and this outpatient benefits is composed of our minor surgical procedures or those procedures which need not be admitted. And the outpatient benefits are also together with our primary care. And the primary care benefit right now is what we call as consulta. We also have our special benefits, and the example of this is the catastrophic benefit package, which we term as the benefit packages. These catastrophic benefit packages are, for example, kidney transplantation, heart surgeries, and the like. And lastly, we also have our special benefits following our international commitment. So currently we have our SDG related benefits or the Sustainable Development Goal benefits. These are United Nations commitments, and this would include malaria, HIV/AIDS, TB, and maternity care package, amongst others. With regard to our outpatient benefit package, again, part of this is our primary care. And this is one of our banner programs, especially in the next coming years. Currently, our primary care package is what we term as consulta package or consultang sulit at tama. This is again a primary care, which provides this following services. The primary care services include consultation, several laboratory services, drugs, and medicines. At the moment, this is limited to this. However, with the enactment of the Universal Healthcare Act and placing primary care as the foundation of an integrated and comprehensive healthcare services, we are also expanding our primary care services to a comprehensive outpatient benefit primary care. So everyone would expect in the next few years or so that this will be actually expanded to a comprehensive one. In terms of PhilHealth's response to the pandemic, to the recent pandemic, the corporation also launched several various packages to address the needs of our affected Filipino people. And this would include testing packages. This would also include confinement packages and benefits for, again, confinement, and even those benefits which would need, like, for example, provided services being provided not just by hospitals, but also by other facilities, to include even home isolation packages. We also pay for that right now. Other than that is we are also covered thanks to, of course, to the legislators for providing the indemnity fund. And this is to support naman the result of some vaccination injury, which could happen to some of the people or some of the Filipinos who are injected with the vaccines. And these are some of the other responses that we had to, again, answer to the pandemics that we have this time. The third and the last dimension of the UHC, of which we are now being evaluated from, is the financial coverage. And this slide reports that PhilHealth for now covers around 66 pesos for every 100 pesos in hospitalization cost. Please take note, however, that this is a 2019 study. Currently, we are commissioned. We are having commission. We have commissioned studies for the current status on this data. And just to point it out also that the support value that we are providing is higher in the government at 79.30% compared to that private facilities at 57.32%. It is also good to note that around 79.48%, which is the highest coverage that we provide financially, is for the indigent. And of course, the sponsored program members, or those who are also not able to pay their premium contributions, come in second at 78.80% as a financial coverage that we provide. Next slide, please. So far, we are working on this, and these are our key deliverables for the next couple of years. We already have started our implementing the automatic coverage to all, or to every Filipino. We are trying now to do and cost and recost our current benefit packages, including the case rates, to regionalize these rates. And we are also preparing to come out with a comprehensive outpatient benefit package. And we are also reforming the way we actually engage with our healthcare providers through contracts and service level agreements, and through formulation of network of facilities, in order to make sure that our facilities will actually provide an integrated and comprehensive healthcare services that are actually affordable and of quality. So we are also, in order to make sure that we achieve our mandate of being a strategic purchaser of health services under the universal healthcare, we are also now changing the way we actually pay our, or reimburse the services to our providers through the use of new or other provider payment mechanisms. So the major activity actually that we are having right now is we are costing the facilities and services. So,
Hi, Dr. Vargas.
yes.
I do apologize. Yeah, maybe if you there will be time also in the open forum now to discuss the details of the field. So if you can
this
limit.
is the last slide.
Okay, thank you
So
very much.
this is the last slide, sir. And just to tell everyone, for 2021, we have obtained a 90% net satisfaction rating, and this is done by a third party. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vargas, for the presentation by the field. And now let's go down to the presentation on social insurance, no, by the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation. And again, we're joined by Mr. Seb Cordial. Seb.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Randy. So good afternoon, everyone. So this brief presentation shares with you a broad view of the agricultural insurance program that the Philippine Crop Insurance implements. It has three parts: a brief introduction to PCIC and its insurance products. The second part is the features of the free insurance program and how it has performed so far. And last, a listing of the challenges and recommendations of way forward on them. Okay. So the PCIC is a government-owned and controlled corporation. Its operation is enabled by a 1995 law, RA 8175, that amended the PCIC's original charter issued in 1978. PCIC has been operating since 1981. It is currently attached to the Department of Finance. PCIC has 7 business lines or insurance products. These are rice, corn, high-value crops, livestock, fisheries, non-crop agricultural assets, and credit and life term insurance. The crop, livestock, fisheries insurance provides financial protection against impacts of extreme weather, geological convulsions, and occurrence of plant and animal pests and diseases. The non-crop asset insurance covers buildings, machinery, equipment, and farm support infrastructure against fire, lightning, or direct loss. The credit and life term insurance protects lenders from non-payment of loans due to death or disability or incapacity of borrower, and provides compensation for injuries due to accidents and loss of life. In the crop and non-crop asset lines, there is a component for paying clients and another for the non-paying or subsidized clients. In the term insurance, everyone pays for their policies. PCIC's free insurance is called the Agricultural Insurance Program for Farmers and Fisher Folk under the RSBSA, or simply the RSBSA. As you know, RSBSA stands for the Registry System for Basic Sectors in Agriculture. It is considered the most comprehensive listing of agricultural producers in the country. It was done through a survey conducted in 2012 but did not cover ARMM and NCR. Those listed in the RSBSA are eligible for free insurance. Those not in the list but are real agricultural producers may still be covered provided that he or she is issued a certification as such by the Municipal Agricultural Officer and the Provincial Agricultural and Fishery Council Chairperson. Those provided this certificate becomes part of the RSBSA list. Priority is given to those with 1.5 hectares and below. The next priority goes to those with greater than 1.5 but less than 2 hectares, and then those with 2 hectares up to 3 hectares. The free insurance program is funded yearly under the GAA. All the PCIC's insurance lines are part of the free insurance program except for the credit and life term insurance. The RSPSA farmers and fisher folk are not automatically covered by the program. They have to express their interest by filling out enrollment forms in our regional offices or provincial extension offices in some provinces and service desks in select municipalities. The PAOs and the provincial offices and the service desks are field offices created by the PCIC to bring insurance services nearer to the clients to make up for the urban locations of our regional offices. In registering farmers and fisher folk for our insurance programs, PCIC is assisted by a nationwide network of public and private sector partners. There are over 3,000 institutions now affiliated with this partnership, and these include formal lending institutions, including rural banks, microfinance institutions, cooperatives, and farmer organizations that, aside from providing information and advocacy services, also assists as underwriters. Those that assist solely in terms of information, education, and advocacy includes CSOs, SUCs, regional offices of the national government agencies, and some local radio and TV stations. So far, the budget that has been allocated under the GAA has totaled 22.23 billion for this free insurance program. It started with 1.6 billion in 2014 and up to then 3.5 billion in 2021. This year, we have some 4.5 billion. By the latest count, and that is end of 2021, about 1.89 million farmers and fisher folk participate in the free insurance program. Considering the 7.6 million in the RSBSA list as our base, the penetration rate or share of insured farmers and fisher folks over their total insurable number at the moment is 32.34%. In terms of the claims paid, the PCIC has shelled out 13.86 billion over 8 years. The number of claims total about 2.14 million. In 2021, the latest number of claimants and the highest number ever since was 575,693. So we counted 3 major challenges facing the free insurance program. The first is that the funding is not assured. The RSBSA program is considered an activity under the GAA and therefore may not be provided allocation anytime. To sustain funding, we need to institutionalize the budget. In the short term, it could be a commitment for a multi-year funding from the executive branch. In the longer term, a law may be needed. Second, the RSBSA list is now about 10 years old and maybe outdated already. We think that the RSBSA should be conducted periodically in a cycle of about 3 years. This needs assured funding, and this can only be done through legislation. But in the short term, the Department of Agriculture that has been charged with ownership and management of the database should be able to expedite its updating. Then there's the timely payment of claims. The current ARTA commitment puts the prompt payment at within 20 days after a claim with complete documentary support is filed. The PCIC so far has been successful in only 70% of the time. We see 3 ways to address this, and these are not necessarily mutually exclusive. One is to raise the number of PCIC staff. The next is to develop index-based products. And the third is to explore digital solutions to in-person adjustments or damage assessment or validation. That ends my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Sam, for presenting the activities of the PCIC. Let's go now next to Junjay Perez, the Executive Director of the RIMANSI, which is Association of Mutual Benefit Association or small insurers. Junjay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Andy and members of the panel, Rep. Kimbo, Dr. Ish, and Sam, and everyone. Maraming salamat for giving us this opportunity to share the work that the microinsurance MBAs are doing in the Philippines. Just to maybe quickly put a face on what we call microinsurance. What I've shown here in the slide, the left side is some basic information on a typical microinsurance product of the microinsurance mutual benefit associations. So imagine low-income households paying 20 pesos per week as their contribution to the insurance program. This is what we call the basic family life insurance. And this covers the member, the spouse, and the children for only one policy, for 20 pesos. And this already covered the risks such as natural and accidental death, and even in terms of total and permanent disability. The maximum benefit can go as high as 100,000 pesos, and a portion of these 20 pesos that they pay weekly, 50% or 10 pesos, is being reserved as a refundable equity value when they terminate their membership in the program. It's like the equivalent of the cash value of the conventional life insurance programs. The microinsurance mutual benefit associations also in the Philippines are known as the 135-day microinsurance providers in terms of claims turnaround time. We are the fastest in terms of paying claims. We can pay claims within 24 hours from date of notice. When there are questions, it should be settled within 3 days. And the maximum time of making the decision whether to pay the claims or not is within 5 days. And aside from this basic family life insurance program that they offer, they also provide loan insurance, or what we call the credit life insurance, and some form of hospitalization financial assistance to the family when they are admitted in the hospitals. And even old age insurance when they exit from the basic family life insurance, they get to have access to what we call the golden life insurance. When they reach the age of 66, for example, they pay for 10 years to age 75, and they're covered until age 100. So those are some of the examples of the microinsurance products being offered by the microinsurance mutual benefit associations. So these insurance programs actually can be accessed by the low-income households through the distribution channels such as the microfinance institutions, the cooperatives, and rural banks in different parts of the Philippines. So basically, in our network of microinsurance MBAs, we have about 19 as of June 2022. And these 19 microinsurance mutual benefit associations are registered with the SEC. They are licensed also by the Insurance Commission to provide insurance, and they are non-profit insurance providers. And They are also like cooperatives. No, they are owned and governed by the members. And the only difference is that the only business of the microinsurance MBAs is only insurance. And as of June 2022, our membership already has reached 7.86 million. 90% of these members are women, and most of them are what we call the enterprising low-income households. And since our basic life insurance programs covers about the family, about 4 or 5 of them, so the actual count for the number of lives covered by June 2022 is more than 29 million already. So overall, for the microinsurance market, the market share of the microinsurance MBAs is at 60%. In 2021, for the whole year, we have been able to collect. These 19 MBAs have been able to collect 5.67 billion in terms of contributions and premiums for the different products that they have offered. And our concrete contribution to poverty alleviation efforts really is that in terms of average daily claims in the year 2021, we've been paying about 280 death claims every day, for an equivalent amount of 7 billion pesos. So I guess this 280 households will not be able to be dragged on to getting support from outside, from politicians, or from the local government unit, but they are, because they are already provided with benefits from the microinsurance that they used to provide for a good burial for a family member who died. So I think, Randy, I'll stop from here, and I'll just add later during the further discussions. Randy, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Junjay. And I think that provided a very good overview of the work that's being done by the different mutual benefit associations as well. So thank you very much, Junjay. Let's now go to our next speaker, Congresswoman Stella Kimbo, who's actually going to present some of her legislative initiatives related to social protection. Congresswoman Stella, thank you for having us.
Yes, of course, salamat, Dr. Duaño. Magandang hapon po sa lahat, and of course, special greetings to PES President Dr. Diokno Sicat. Congratulations on this very successful meeting. Of course, to my fellow economists and fellow panelists, good afternoon din po. So it is an honor to present before this panel and discuss with you the economic vulnerabilities that we face as a nation. We can all agree that the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on Filipinos were particularly drastic and far-reaching because of the lack of a comprehensive social protection program in our country. COVID-19 demonstrated to us as a nation the full range of economic shocks that households have to face or absorb under our current state of social protection programs, as well as digital infrastructure. From January to April 2020, almost 5 million Filipinos were added to the number of Filipinos without a job. By the end of April, there were 12.97 million who had jobs but were not at work, largely due to forced business closures during the lockdown. And many of these workers were also at risk of job loss owing to liquidity constraints faced by their employers by the end of the lockdown. Today, health risks due to COVID persist despite the presence of vaccines. For all, COVID-19 infection will certainly incur medical costs, but for some, such medical costs will be substantial. Hence, PhilHealth coverage has become important now more than ever, particularly because, of course, as explained by Dr. Ish, PhilHealth mandate is to provide every Filipino with financial risk protection. And if PhilHealth program is effective, it prevents families that experience illnesses from falling into poverty after facing catastrophic health spending. However, despite the Universal Healthcare Act being in place in the last 4 years, PhilHealth coverage remains sub-universal. By 2020, PhilHealth had 59.1 million direct contributor beneficiaries and 36.9 million indirect contributor beneficiaries. So this means, and as explained by Dr. Ish earlier, only 88% of the population is currently covered by the state insurer. And based on the most recent NDHS data, household PhilHealth coverage rate is only at 66%. So it is not surprising that with limited healthcare financing, then access to healthcare is also limited. So one of the most sort of depressing statistics for me is that 4 out of 10 Filipinos die without seeing a doctor. Furthermore, the implementation of the National Health Insurance Program has been hounded by problems. For example, improperly set case rates and fund management failures seen in low premium collection rates as well as low payment rates, among others, beset PhilHealth. But of course, I'm happy that there had been a recent improvement, particularly with respect to premium collection. So in a nutshell, social health insurance at this point in time still needs some work. Hence, many legislative measures are pending in Congress seeking to strengthen or improve the implementation of the Universal Healthcare Act. At the onset of the pandemic, our government enacted the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, which provided a legal basis for social protection measures for 18 million vulnerable households, or roughly 75% of total households in our country. So this SAP, or Social Amelioration Program of the government, cushioned the effects of sudden unemployment experienced by millions of Filipinos. And while studies have shown that the SAP helped mitigate the poverty impact of the pandemic, of course, we cannot afford to have this kind of a program indefinitely. And of course, it also doesn't make economic sense because this SAP is designed to address a large scale or general and massive economic downturn, which rarely happens. So moving forward, it really makes better sense for Congress to work on longer term solutions to strengthen the country's social protection system. So for example, unemployment benefits currently provided for by the SSS and GSIS are in their respective charters, and these are laws enacted by Congress. But arguably, these are still highly insufficient, and therefore an act of Congress is needed to create a more sufficient and more effective unemployment insurance program. Secondly, by enshrining a social protection system in place, rather than leaving the design at the discretion of implementing agencies, we are able to institutionalize a program that will be sufficiently funded by Congress and that will stay on course regardless of changes in leadership in such movement. On a personal note, I had been an advocate of social insurance, particularly social health insurance, since I was still a student of economics. In fact, I wrote my PhD dissertation on social health, on optimal social health insurance programs. But today, our current system is still wanting, at least in terms of effective coverage. Our current level of spending on social protection is the lowest in the ASEAN, at least in terms of percent of GDP. And if you think about it, some amount of social protection is actually imported from other countries because of many of our kababayans are OFWs and of course also benefit from the social protection programs in the countries where they work. So in Congress, I am very mindful of opportunities to propose reforms to our social protection system. Of course, it's also a way to apply whatever economic theories I used to teach. So there are two bills of possibly interest to all of you today. And one is the National Unemployment Insurance Bill, or PhilJobs, and the other is the Social Health Insurance Crisis Bill, which I filed in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And I refiled these bills last June and fervently hope that they get enacted this Congress. These bills attempt to offer solutions that address fundamental problems in the current system, and later on during the open forum, I can discuss this in more detail. Apart from these, I introduced bills that would strengthen existing government programs for the vulnerable. I am seeking to expand the coverage of DepEd's school-based feeding program to the secondary level to serve undernourished high school students. Kasi po sa ngayon, under the current law, ang sakop lang ay ang elementary students. I also filed the Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Act to institutionalize the AICS program of the DSWD that provides immediate relief to the marginalized sector facing difficult circumstances. Hopefully, these measures would further firm up the available social protection programs of the government to the poor. So indeed, COVID-19 pandemic has brought into sharp focus the weaknesses of our country's social protection systems, the patchiness of social assistance, and delays in delivery. But at the same time, it has presented a golden opportunity for us to build risk resilience and reduce the economic vulnerabilities of the Filipinos from exogenous shocks through legislation. Sure, pandemics and other natural disasters will come, but with a strengthened social protection system, we will weather those storms without Filipino families getting pushed back further into poverty. So I'll end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Stella, for that, for telling us, inform us of the challenges, in social protection, and what are some of your legislative proposals to meet these. And I'd also thank the other panelists, Dr. Ish, Junjay, and also Sem, for giving the highlights of your respective programs. So at this point, we will have now an open forum, and I think we have already now our moderator, Dr. Sir Peña Reyes, who's the director of the Ateneo Center for Economic Research and Development, who will facilitate the discussion. Sir?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to profusely apologize for not being able to log in sooner. And thank you, Sir Randy, for filling in for me. I encountered unexpected technical problems here at home. But anyway, very interesting presentations. And of course, this has sparked a lot of interest. As I see here in our Q&A box, there are already questions lined up, which of course I would like to tackle one by one. So perhaps I can go through this chronologically. So the first question from Mr. Daniel Agustin is addressed to Mr. Perez. Okay, so Mr. Perez, did your financials, like your income statement, decline during the pandemic? And do you intend to increase your assets by way of borrowings?
Thank you, for
Mr. Perez.
question.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Peña Reyes. In 2020, the collections of contributions of the MBEs declined by about 800 million, and that caused the losses in at least 5 microinsurance MBEs in our network. But in terms of borrowing, the MBAs, our member microinsurance MBAs, they have reserves from past positive results in terms of operations. So there's really no need for them to borrow capital from outside, at least as of this time.
All right. Thank you, sir, for your concise answer. All right. Another question, this time addressed to Representative Kimbo. Okay, so Dr. Kimbo, your handling of the 2023 budget. I'm sorry, I seem to have... here it is. Dr. Kimbo, from Mr. Daniel Agustin. All right. So, Dr. Kimbo, your handling of the 2023 budget was excellent. I hope that in the following years, and as our GDP is stable and is improving, okay, kindly scrutinize well the budget of crop insurance, which is badly needed by farmers and kindly increase crop insurance budget, please, in the forthcoming budget hearings. So, Dr. Kimbo, would you like to say something about this, please?
Yes, thank you, Danielle. You know, when I was listening to the presentation of PCIC, this is exactly what went through my mind, na talagang kailangan natin kilatisin kung ano bang budget ang nilalaan natin para sa crop insurance, which as we all know is really very, very important, especially because our farmers, being poor, are very risk averse. So this is one way talaga to improve the productivity of our farmers. And we're so lucky na at this point in time, lagi kasing kulelat ang agriculture sector. And so we're happy that this time around, we've really put in increased resources into agriculture. But definitely, this is something that we need to look into. But siguro, some questions top of mind, no? Kasi we set aside 4.5, how much did we set aside? 4.5 billion, I think. Pero ang nakita kong spending ng PCIC in the most recent year was significantly less than that. So kailangan natin tignan talaga, no? Again, I am not averse to the possibility of or pushing for increases in the budget, but we need to make sure that there is an efficient setting aside of funds for crop insurance. So kailangan natin tignan, no? So paano nila ginagamit. And at the same time, one important question siguro, because many of us here are researchers, is ano ang willingness to pay for insurance, for crop insurance? Kasi ang tanong dyan is, 100% ba dapat siya i-subsidize ng gobyerno? Kasi kung merong private willingness to pay, I think we need to harness that and figure out hanggang saan ang role ng gobyerno sa pag-subsidize ng premiums. So in the same breath, ang health insurance, ang PhilHealth premiums, hindi naman yan 100% subsidized by the government. Ang sinusubsidize lang ng gobyerno is yung ating mga indigent na kababayan na hindi talaga nila kayang bayaran ang PhilHealth premiums. For the rest of the population, because there's some willingness to pay, hina-harness yun, and therefore they fall under a separate program. So tingin ko ganon, magandang pag-aralan pa lalo ang current design, and don't worry po, kakampi niyo po ako dito. Salamat po.
Excellent, Dr. Kimbo. Thank you very much for that assurance. All right. And next question, I think this one is addressed specifically to Dr. Pargas. Okay, so Dr. Pargas, from Mr. Daniel Agustin. Okay. Dr. Pargas, please commend. I commend PhilHealth for being responsive during the pandemic. Based on your experience, what legislative changes will you recommend to Congress to make the current law more responsive, including the budget? So, Dr. Pargas, please, if you may please answer this.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir, and thank you to Mr. Agustin. Well, for one, we'd like to thank, of course, Representative Kimbo, who was actually very supportive with regard to the PhilHealth program and the social protection issues. No? And she actually is a very staunch, again, supporter in order for us to actually improve on our efforts and to make sure that we actually achieve our mandate. And I guess she also already said that there are already some bills pending and filed right now in the Congress. There is one that which actually she has filed on the social protection crisis. There is also one filed by, I think, Representative Salceda on this, and there are actually other laws already which have been mandating social protection issues. So I think one of the main things that we need to do really is to an extra push for us to actually implement the current laws. But with regard to an amendment or to new laws which are being asked right now, I think with the ever-increasing need for PhilHealth to provide and expand its coverage and its also benefits, we actually need, of course, the fund sustainability and viability. So we really need the support to make sure that there is funding available. And of course, again, we'd like to thank the Congress for actually providing and increasing the subsidy, government subsidy for those who are not able to pay. But really also, we need also the support in order for us to make sure that we can have more financial viability and sustainability, and that would actually include the premiums that should be paid for by those who are able to pay. Currently, the UHC provides a premium increase until 2025. But after that, we still don't know what will happen yet. But of course, before the 2025, we need to reevaluate the financial position of PhilHealth. So basically, this is the law that we need is one, and making sure that we have enough financial viability and sustainability, and that is will actually increase the health spending. And second is just to support what Representative Kimbo already has said, to answer or respond to some of the flaws right now that we have, especially on fraud, especially on digital or digitization, and support to make sure that this is a full of government approach. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for the very good answer. And I see that we still have a number of questions. Very very interesting. Okay. Okay. So let me just scroll here. Again, from Mr. Daniel Agustin, this time addressed to Dr. Cordial. Okay, Dr. Cordial, truly, crop insurance is of great value for farmers as we are visited by around about 19 typhoons a year, according to PIDS. So the question, who administers the enrollment firms, and is it the PAO or the MAO? It appears you don't have offices in the barrio. So Dr. Cordial, please, if you could say something about this.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Peña Reyes. The question is whether it's through the MAO or the PAO. Our partners right now is really the municipal agricultural officers. They aggregate all enrollment forms of the farmers within their jurisdiction before it's passed on to us.
All right. Are you done, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Cordial. All right. Okay. Next question. Mr. Daniel Agustin, addressed to Dr. Kimbo. Right. So, given our experience with debt and paeng, what legislative measures would you recommend, including perhaps increasing the budget or yeah, so Dr. Kimbo, given our experience with debt and paeng, what legislative measures would you recommend? And would this possibly include increasing the budget? So, please, if you could provide an answer to this.
Well, in general, there are two kinds of spending that we would need to respond to calamities. No, one is yung ex-post response, which right now is being addressed pretty much through the calamity funds. At sa ngayon naman, meron naman tayong nakalaan na funds para sa purpose na yan. The other way would be parang ex-ante kind of spending that will try to mitigate these kinds of huge damages. So kasama po dyan yung ways to change the behavior of the Filipinos in trying to protect our environment. And just to report to you, kakapasa lang on third reading sa Kongreso yung tax on single-use plastics. So these are examples of legislation that can be done so that our behavior, as consumers, can be changed so that we better take care of our planet and mitigate the effects of climate change. So offhand, yun yung dalawang klase. As to the question on whether the calamity funds is sufficient at this point, pwede naman nating balikan ulit yan kasi meron pa naman tayong MyCam which will happen sometime end of November. And again, rest assured, this is something that we will certainly assess, especially because you reminded us that this is a very important question.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kimbo, for reassuring again the public that you are working hard really to advocate for these very important reforms. Right. So the next question, if we go by this list again, Mr. Daniel Agustin is asking Mr. Perez this time. Indeed, microinsurance is a protection to the marginalized sector. In view of the weakening of the peso vis-a-vis the dollar, what measures will you take so the protection value of microinsurance will not be adversely affected by the weakening of the peso? So very timely and interesting. So Mr. Perez, please, if
Thank you. No.
provide the answer.
Very difficult questions to answer. Maybe Mr. Randy Tuanyo can help me on this because he's also very involved in one of the microinsurance programs in Quezon City. But I've mentioned about unable to collect about 800 million in 2020, and that's because of Bayanihan 1 and 2 when insurance providers were encouraged to extend grace period for the payment of contributions of our members. And I think from 45 days grace period, we added 60 days. So it's like more than 100 days for grace period during that time. And that actually caused the decline in terms of the contributions in 2020. But we're able to recover in 2021 and until this year. And we hope to sustain that until the end of the year. So that's one. Some MBEs are capable. They actually provided free basic life insurance for a year for their members. For those who are bigger and with much research from the past years. So they're able to do that, but not all of the microinsurance MBAs. And number 3, for those who can also, they provided some financial assistance, support, relief assistance to their members. And number 4, if you are a member of microinsurance mutual benefit association, you're actually in the ecosystem of financial services, and you have access to loans and saving services. So in terms of financial needs, aside from insurance, you'll be able to get it from the institutions, MFIs, rural banks, cooperatives, and for insurance for the microinsurance MBEs. And so those were some of the examples of the efforts that we've been able to do to help our members cope with the pandemic, making sure that they are continuously covered, even without paying premiums. Thank you.
All right, excellent answer, Sir Junji. All right, so moving on to the next one. All right, specifically about PCIC. All right, so from Mr. Enrico Villanueva. Okay, are the PCIC challenges already known to the DA leadership? Okay, very straight to the point. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Cordial, yes, please.
Yes, I guess the DA, this has been shared with the DA leadership, but I just like to stress, we are part of the DOF now. We are not with the DA.
Okay, very good. Thank you for clarifying that, sir. All right. So next question. Okay, round robin lang to, This time again, Dr. Kimbo from Mr. Daniel Agustin. Okay, Dr. Kimbo, the present administration plans to put up 1 million low-cost housing yearly. Okay, I suggest Your Honor to make the houses resilient and typhoon-proof. Okay, could you kindly ensure that we adapt the Batanes house model, which is typhoon-proof? Dr. Kimbo, perhaps you have something to say about this, the Batanes house model, which is alluded to in this question.
Yes. mahirap lang to provide the requested assurance that we will adopt the Batanes household model, because sa ngayon, itong plano to put up 1 million units every year is something that it's a new program that the DSUD is going to undertake. And in fact, sa ngayon, pati yung financing aspect of it, I think pinag-uusapan pa. In fact, I know about this because one of the very first na groundbreaking nila happened in my district. But the design that they adopted for that is yung typical na condominium na maraming floors. And unfortunately, it's not the Batanes housing type. But of course, lagi na lang kasi tayong nasasalanta ng bagyo, and tama naman talaga na we really have to think about housing designs that are suitable to our climate. So magandang pag-aralan, and don't worry, sa mga pagkakataon na meron ako na imungkahi sa DSUD na baka kailangan i-reassess ang ating low-cost housing design area, I'm going to do that, sir.
Excellent answer, ma'am. Okay, this is not a question to Dr. Kimbo, but more of a compliment from Mr. Daniel Agustin. Okay, thank you, Dr. Kimbo, for attending to the brighter future of crop insurance. Keep it up as well for Marikina. All right, so yun po, no? Just wanted to say that out loud. Thank you, Mr. Daniel Agustin, for those kind words to Dr. Kimbo.
Pwede po bang magtanong kay Dr. Cordial? So right now, you're attached to the DOF. Ano ba ang, I've always wondered ano yung rationale kung bakit ang attachment is to DOF and not to DA. I know that it took an act of Congress, but sa inyo pong opinion, saan ba dapat kayong ma-attach? Ano lang naman, opinion lang naman, di ba? Because in the end, talaga ang masusunod is Kongreso.
Yeah, the law, the charter itself, ma'am, says you should be attached to DA. That's in RA 8175. But last year, through an executive order, we were placed under the aegis of the Department of Finance for program and policy coordination. That's the language. But I think personally, again, this is personal opinion, we're more functionally related to the functions of the Department of Agriculture. Now, it seems that the worry of the Finance Department is yung financial affairs ng PCIC, but yung mga latest moves naman namin is in accordance already with their prescriptions. And I think we have been placed under the oversight also of the Insurance Commission. So whatever concerns the DOF has over the financial affairs of the PCIC may be done by the Insurance Commission. Right now, I think yung relationship po kasi between our regional offices and yung Department of Agriculture regional offices, baka maapektuhan because of this, protocols between departments. So, yun po yung concern. Yung coordination medyo constrained. Thank you po.
Right.
Yeah, and
Okay.
can
Yes,
I may I just respond? I heard kasi kanina kay Representative Kimbo na we've been provided 4.5 billion and it seems na yung report ay we're using less than that. Yung record po namin as far as the free insurance program is concerned, we have been using up the entire allocations po every year. But I think the question is yung kung tama po ba yung premium pricing so that mas spread out or mas malaki yung coverage ng whatever budgets that we are given. This is now yung premium pricing po namin is being reviewed already by an IC accredited actuary. It's an actuarial firm, and yung results po ng study nila will be coming out maybe by the end of the month. So yung initial results naman po says that yung premium pricing namin is not far off. Yung actuarially sound premium pricing is not far off from what we have. In fact, yung pricing po ng rice and corn namin right now is medyo mababa daw than what it should be actuarially. So yun. Thank you po.
Salamat po for sharing, and paki-share na rin po yung report kapag meron na po kayo sa office ko po. Salamat.
Yes po, we will do that.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so we have, well, just a quick time check. We have 6 minutes left, and still, 6 questions. I thought we could answer all of them in 6 minutes. So perhaps in the interest of time, we could just perhaps take 2 more, and the remaining questions perhaps could be emailed to the resource persons concerned. All right, but okay, this question is from Mr. Enrico Villanueva. Okay, the health and crop insurance government units are currently beset by challenges. On the other hand, we have private sector like Remansi successfully delivering microinsurance to the poor. So the question, can the provision of health and crop insurance to the poorest sector be coursed to the more efficient private sector, now with government providing the funding? A parallel approach is the provision of basic education to private school. Okay, so would anyone like to take this on, please?
Walang gustong sumagot. Siguro,
Wala ho ba?
ako kasi, that is the same sort of proposal that I had in my bill regarding PhilHealth, na dapat hindi sana precluded na ang capacity only comes from government. So, sinasabi ko dun sa aking bill, in certain situations, baka pwede natin i-allow ang PhilHealth to outsource certain services from the private sector if obviously more efficient sa private sector. So tingin ko that same principle should be applied to all other insurance programs in government. Kasi sa totoo lang, insurance as a concept is complicated. Ika nga, it's not very simple, and kailangan talaga ng very specific skills, particularly among the managers. And sometimes kasi hindi talaga nandun lahat eh. And we have to keep in mind na in the private sector, kung talagang gumagana doon, we should not be precluded from being able to outsource from them. So tingin ko, baka nag-a-apply din yun sa crop insurance.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kimbo, for taking that on. And as I mentioned, we are pressed for time. Last question. Yaman din lamang si Dr. Kimbo yung nagkakasalita lang po. So Dr. Kimbo, please, if I could address this to you from Daniel Agustin again. Dr. Kimbo, we know you are an expert in taxation. Okay, so how about increasing the tariff of imported shoes to protect our local shoe industry, which you fully support? This might be the needed social insurance for our local shoe producers. Moreover, we look into the value chain of the shoe industry with the end view of supporting it from cattle raising to the marketing the shoes abroad, just like how President Trump protected U.S. industries. So, ma'am, last question that we can accommodate, please.
Yes, of course. Isa din po akong dating sapatera, so I'm really one with you in the desire to promote the local footwear industry. And I filed a bill on this, meaning ways to support the footwear industry. Pero doon sa aking bill, hindi po by way of tariffs, because ang naisip natin dito, there are other ways to help, quote-unquote, protect apart from the use of tariffs. Sa aking bill, it's parang giving local manufacturers some preferential treatment sa pag-procure ng government agencies ng kanilang footwear requirements. So that's also a way to support and protect the footwear industry, but not by way of tariffs, because alam naman natin na maraming ding problema kung tariffs ang gagamitin natin. Alam natin na the typical economist would say that, diba, the freer the market, the better. So tingin ko baka magandang tignan ang itong alternative route, which is some non-fiscal measures to support and protect the local industry.
All right. Ma'am, thank you. Thank you very much for taking that question. Really regrettably, we cannot take all of these 5 remaining questions, no, because of time constraints. But perhaps our PES Secretariat can take note of these and perhaps send these questions to the people they're directed to. But anyway, okay, at this point, I would like to thank everyone for joining the discussion, okay? And just to give, of course, synthesis of this session, okay? This session, as I would like to emphasize, this is really part of the Republic Act number 10922, an act declaring the second week of November of every year as Economic and Financial Literacy Week, okay, which was passed in 2015. We're celebrating it, no? This year, it's November 7 to 11. So this is the last day, no, that we are celebrating this, okay, for 2022. Okay, so the law mandates the NEDA in coordination with the Philippine Economic Society and in partnership with other academic and professional institutions, okay, to lead and encourage the participation of the private sector and civil society, okay, during the Economic and Financial Literacy Week. Okay, and we are, of course, privileged to have Representative Stella Kimbo here with us, because as the president of the Philippine Economic Society then, she was instrumental in the passage of the law. Okay, and of course, no, we know that there have been a lot of challenges, no, especially during COVID. COVID exposed a lot of weaknesses. A large informal economy, a low propensity to save and invest, and widespread financial exclusion have been factors that exacerbated our financial situation as a nation. Okay, so all of these reforms, of course, very welcome. Okay, so I would like to thank our panelists for giving their time and their expertise for the success of this session. Thank you, Representative Stella Luz Kimbo, Dr. Israel Francis Pargas, Mr. Sem Cordial, and Mr. Jun J. Perez for joining us. And of course, we also thank our session participants, especially those who asked questions, for joining this timely and relevant discussion. So coming up next is the closing plenary session. As we cap off this 3-day conference, the upcoming session will feature a panel discussion on forecasting the Philippine economy challenges and opportunities. So we'll first have a 15-minute break before we resume at 3 p.m. for the closing session. So again, thank you very much and see you all later. Okay? God bless you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Stella.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Ma'am.